Welcome to Trees and Plants in Victorian Government Secondary Schools. There are some guidelines and regulations that the school has got to follow, being a government school. So we are going to consider these regulations and guidelines now. What we are going to see in this is the importance of managing trees and plants in schools, ensuring safety and sustainability, overview of key requirements and best practices when we are going for planting trees. When we consider the safety requirements of plants and trees in the school, first we have got to assess the risk relating to planting trees. The regular inspection of trees and plants to see if there are some insects, poisonous ones. We have got to check whether they are dangerous ones for the other infrastructure of the school, or it's a problem for the tree itself or the neighbor trees. So we have got to inspect the trees and plants, identification and documentation of assets, implementation of risk mitigation strategies, annual arborist assessment of larger trees. We look at the emergency management, maintaining clear evacuation paths. The tree and plant should not obstruct the evacuation path, ensuring trees do not block emergency vehicle access, preventing vegetation from obstructing emergency exit, regular pruning to avoid interference with power lines. Environmental consideration about native species of trees and plants that are allowed by Victorian Government Department of Education. So we need to prioritize, this is in green, so prioritizing indigenous Australian plants that will be automatically accepted by Victorian Government Department of Education. Supporting local ecosystem and wildlife, so that's based on the strategic location of the school where it is and based on the council's support for ecosystem and wildlife, you can plant those trees, and also recommending drought and resistant species, so where these species will resist a possibility of drought, so that will be acceptable for government schools. We also have to check the environmental considerations for sustainability practices. Sustainability is the ability to sustain for a long time. So using water efficient irrigation system is very important, otherwise plants will die, and you have got to use any mulching for water conservation so that the water the moist is retained. Even if you fail to water in a day, it will be the mulching that will conserve the water that is already poured onto. Encouraging composting of green waste. This is a very nice thing that we can always do for helping the plant to grow. Use the compost from the green waste. Minimizing chemical usage of trying to use the pesticides and things like that. So we have to minimize the chemical usage. Maintenance requirements that needs regular maintenance of plants and trees. We need to have a scheduled pruning programs. We need to have a weed control measure. The weeds grow faster than the trees and plants. Disease management protocol. If one plant or one tree is having a disease, it's quite easy for the infection to spread around to other plants and trees. And we are going to have a procedure for removing the dead plants. Educational integration, learning opportunities. We are integrating with your curriculum, environmental education, hands-on gardening activities, supervised gardening program, environmental activities, conservation projects, and native plant studies will have. Health and safety guidelines, allergen management, chemical safety are very important for the safe planting of trees and plants. Identifying allergenic species, restricting high allergen plants, clear signage for known allergens, emerging emergency response procedures, restricting pesticide use, safe storage of chemicals, and timing concentration for application, and preventing student exposure are a few of those allergen management and chemical safety guidelines. The planning requirements has something to do with the landscape design, strategic placement of trees, considering building foundations and providing shade, and enhancing visual appeal. When we do the planning for plants and trees, we have got to consider the future growth. We have to allocate the space for mature trees. We have to look at the root system, how the root can travel, and if it is going to interfere with any drainage and water mains, protect the building and consider the infrastructure. We are going to see the compliance requirements for tree audits in government schools by Victorian Department of Education, and we also look at local regulations of the City Council, protecting heritage trees, managing to protect species, and consider um, the property boundaries, very important. The compliance requirements also need a documentation of keeping a journal and notation somewhere that we have got to have a record of what we are doing and how many trees we are planting and the date on which we did and things of that kind. Documentation, inspection, and incidents that we have got to keep a record of that. And we also have got to keep a record of the treatments we have given for the trees and plants. In conclusion, the summary of the key guidelines we need to be aware of: the importance of compliance and for safety and sustainability, and we have got to encourage ongoing best practice.